Hello, welcome to the pricing Q&A. My name is Filip Vucic. I'm a pricing consultant, and I tell you what you need to know so your prices can grow. Today we have a lot of questions that came in. Why do people price the same thing differently for different clients? Oh, I like that. Well, there are a lot of communication traps in this question. The same thing or the same value is not necessarily true. You doing the same things doesn't mean that those things mean the same thing to different clients. Also, the same price doesn't mean the same pain. Most of Scandinavia determines fines based on income. So for the same traffic violation, a rich person would pay multiple times more than a poor person, because they say otherwise you either have fines so high that they bankrupt poor people, or so low that the rich can safely ignore all the rules. So that's the principle of equal pain. And if you charge, let's say, people from multiple parts of the country or different countries where the purchasing power parity is not the same, you can have basically the same pain, we can call it the same price, by varying the amount of money that you're asking for, especially when we're talking about expert services. I mean, both work, right? But in my opinion, insisting on one price just because your work is always the same doesn't make a lot of sense, because a mom and pop shop will have way less of way less value from that work than a huge chain store would have. So charging them the same simply because you did the same work doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, I hope that answered. Nicole, do you want to state the question? Yes, here. I know there are others in my industry charging much less than me, and I worry about how to compete with that when our target audience is similar. Well, the difference is that when you only think about the number from your perspective, from your price from your perspective, you only see the number. But clients don't always see it that way. So let's say they know that, so the price is the same, but you're going to be done quicker. Well, then you're better value. Okay, so let's say your price is 20% higher, but you're going to be done 20% quicker. Is that still a fair trade for some people? Yes. It depends on why they're buying, right? Or you have references, or better references, or they have no references. Then it kind of feels risky to go to them. I mean, you deal with people's money, with people's budgets, right? That's not a small issue. So people have to put a lot of trust in you. They have to basically bear their financial situation to you. So if I found out that somebody was doing very serious financial advice on the cheap, that would sound to me as appealing as a very cheap dentist. Yeah, that sounds painful. No, thank you. Right? And lastly, I know that you approach people with a lot of empathy. And that also makes a difference, because if somebody will help me get financially better by basically practicing tough love and shouting at me and making me feel yeah. I mean, it's conceivable. Yeah, that amount of money is not going to feel the same, right? I was a part in negotiations where one party wanted to buy a website, and they made an offer, and they said, this is the offer, and you're going to take it because you're pathetic and you need the money. And yeah, and the seller said no. And when we were driving home, he said, no, the amount of money was okay, but that virtual slap in the face made it feel not worth it. So if the buyer only said the amount of money, that's fine, but he decreased the value of that amount of money by adding, let's say, an ego cost to it. It does happen. It is so against what I do. Yeah, I definitely believe in the value I provide compared to the others. Just not sure how to communicate that to the audience so they see the value too. Well, that's of course always tricky, but people will always compare you to somebody, but they can be, let's say, led in that. I a long time ago, I had a client which provided psychological help, mostly to women who were unhappy. And we discovered that the same type of audience also goes to soothsayers, crystal ball readers, for basically the same reason. And the lady was horrified. She said, how can they do that? I mean, those people can't help them. I said, you know that, right? You know that. And so if she suggested to her audience, if you're going to let somebody rummage around in your subconscious, you better make sure that those people are certified to do that. And people would say yes to that. That sounds reasonable, right? And the next time that some friend nudged them to go seek happiness with a soothsayer, they would probably say, nah. But my client challenged me. She said, yeah, that's easy to say. That's obvious, right? But what would you say if the soothsayer was your client? And I said, okay, fair. But that would be equally easy, I think. And if that was the situation, the message could be, look, this rules-based society is what made you miserable in the first place. Why would you trust the mainstream, which made you sick, to make you better? You have to find something of an alternative, let's say, right? And people would also say, yes, that makes sense. So it's not easy to come up with a solution on the fly like this, but you can affect who people compare you with. So not everybody who does what you do is necessarily your competition, right? Kia makes cars and BMW makes cars. Are they competition? No. There's probably no one considering a Kia who is also considering a BMW. They're both cars, but they serve completely different audiences. So niching down is always good, but that's something that you probably heard many times. Yeah. But framing is powerful, like I said. So people, if you're going to bare your finances to somebody, you should at least check that they have this, and this. This doesn't mean that you point at the competitor and say they don't have it. You just say that you have it, right? It's like walking into a room and stating loudly, I am not an idiot here. What? I didn't say anything about anybody else. I just talked about me, right? So people are susceptible to that, and I have seen it work very well. People can't really concentrate much on the details, and if you provide them with something that makes sense, you will affect on how they see things. And what you want them to see is the full price: money, convenience, so time or whatever, risk, and ego cost. And if your price is a better deal when all of these four are combined, then you will get clients no matter how the pure costs to your clients look like. Because I just took my son to a pretty expensive dentist because it's his first dentist appointment, and I want that to go great for all number of reasons, right? And somebody pitching me with a cheaper price would not be even heard about that. Okay, so I hope I answered here. Yeah, value pricing decouples the result from my work. It's hard to see how that would fly with my clients. Yeah, well, we live in a society that's basically built on the hourly idea of remunerating work. But let's say you give an advice to a client and prevent a costly like 150K mistake from being made. Would it really matter if you did that after 2, 12, or 120 hours of work? Probably not, right? Would the client really want you to pad the number of hours or wait a couple of weeks? So, you know, the thing that you're trying to avoid here could happen in the meantime while you pad the hours. Would it be really fair to lower your price to a fraction just because you are smart enough to solve it quickly? Probably not. The question is not how many hours they want you to work, or even what deliverables they really want you to make for them, because deliverables can also be a proxy for work. The question is what they want to achieve with your work. And it's again, it's different when it's an expert service and not a repetitive service. Because if somebody hires me to dig a ditch, it's pretty straightforward. If I was digging for 6 hours, there should be a hole equal to 6 hours of work. But let's say somebody pays me for social media marketing, I can do a lot of work completely in vain. I can basically not sleep and deliver a huge amount of content to a wrong audience through a wrong channel at the wrong time, and basically not move the needle at all for my client. Basically just deliver zero value, although I worked a lot. And on the other hand, I can lock into a viral tweet or post and make them a lot of money in like 20 seconds or 2 minutes. There's in expert services of all kinds, there's always this decoupling from hours to value. And the trick is, for the repetitive services, the only sensible way to price is to count the hours, count the bricks, count the pages written. But in expert services, it makes no sense. in most cases, it makes absolutely no sense. You may remember that there was a revolution in IBM when Microsoft was for a short time working for IBM, because IBMers were paid by the line of code. And the early Microsoft guys were all about code efficiency. So they would build loops, which is way less code for the same thing. This is basically where the model has shown itself to start breaking down for developing software, as far as I know. Okay, I hope I answered that. Yes, classic. If I charge 15% more, how do I figure out how many people will leave? Yeah, this is the question of price elasticity. And the main thing that you should know about price elasticity is that it doesn't work one-to-one. It doesn't work like people expect it to work in a linear fashion. So if I have a price of 100 and 100 clients, if I jack up the price to 120, I will lose roughly 20% of clients, and that never happens. It does happen for things that you have nothing to do with, like pure commodities. So barrels of oil, bushels of wheat. Yeah, for that. When it really doesn't matter which bushel is it, then it works like that. But almost nothing in real life business, which is not commodity based, works like that. I mean, there are even usually things are either inelastic, which means they don't react to differences in price as much as you would expect, or extremely elastic, which means that if you make a very small difference in price, all the clients disappear. And there's also some edge cases where lowering the price actually significantly lowers the demand. So imagine a brand new supercar like a Ferrari or something, and a new model comes out which is 50% cheaper than the last one. It would probably be sell less than the last model overall. Why? Because it's still way too expensive for ordinary people, and it's way too cheap to command basically the effect that such a car has. And nobody buys a car like that just to get from point A to point B. So getting back from the edge cases, the less worried your clients are about who does that service, the more of a commodity they see it, and the more elastic the price becomes. So if you have a street full of barbers and they all charge basically the same price, and one of them raises the price for like 10%, and nobody wants to go there anymore. That's an extremely elastic thing, because in that case, obviously nobody cares which barber does the job. It's in the case when they are worried about who does the job, then they will probably default to to a higher price. That may seem strange, but let's make it very simple. You need to make a purchase of a black box. You don't know what's in there, and you know that, and you're in a hurry. And there's two black boxes. They look identical to you, and one of them is cheaper. Does it matter which one you buy? Not that you know of. So why would you buy the more expensive one? Probably no one would. Scenario number two. You have to buy a black box, but you know that inside both is a mechanism, and one of them is probably going to hurt you because it's not well made. You still are faced with two black boxes. You have no way of checking which one of them was made in what way, but one of them is, again, more expensive. As you know, that the one that is worse will hurt you, there's a risk involved, and you're probably going to default on buying the more expensive one. It doesn't have to follow that the more expensive one is the one that is worse, or that is better. So the more expensive one has like 50-50 chance to be better or worse. But we default to the idea that the more expensive one is probably the better one. So basically, you need to convey an appropriate sense of risk to your clients. So an appropriate one. You don't have to scare them if there's nothing to be scared about. But if they're not scared about what you do, scared, worried. If it doesn't matter who does the job, then it's only about pricing. You're competing on price alone. If it matters, then you're not. Then there's some other considerations involved. The problem is that for some things we can know as clients that they're better or worse. But if I order 2 draft contracts, I may think that I'm able to tell which one of these contracts is better for me or my company, but I probably won't be able to know that. And this contract matters to me. It can basically mean a lot for my company. If it's inexpertly made, it can do a lot of damage. But I can't really tell just by looking which one is better for me. Usually, I'm going to default to the more expensive one. So the question was, if I charge 15% more, how do I figure out how many people will leave? They probably won't leave. If it matters what who does that service. If it doesn't matter, then probably much more than 15% will leave. And you should find another niche. I know I made $27 per hour when I was employed. Would paying myself $30 per hour be an okay increase in profits? Most probably no, but it mostly depends on your billable hours. Now, the question is actually related to the question of I left the big corporation X because I figured out that I do all the work for the clients and I only get like 15 to 20% of what the client is actually paying. They don't seem related, but they are. Because the answer about that 20% is it's beyond just the boss being the boss or greed or something. Is the price of someone else handling the tasks that you're not handling when you're an employee, but you are handling when you're solo. And that's marketing, sales, administration, scheduling, booking, legal and assurance, stuff like that. So unfortunately, only about 1/3, let's say, of your actual working hours are usually billable. So sometimes people can make it more using retainers or aggressive marketing or by locking out. But the reality is that soloists, freelancers usually don't have all that much billable hours. And that means that for things to stay the same, you would have to, since you only have 1/3 of billable hours, you have to bill at 3 times the cost that the big company gave you. So in this example, it would be 3 times the 27. So that's definitely way more than 30, right? So I think it would come up to 81, just to make the same money. So because those billable hours have to cover all of the non-billable hours that you still have to do. Yeah, so the 30 would definitely not make the cut. This sounds scary, but remember that you don't need to charge by hour, and you don't need to show the client that. You can say, yes, I can do that for this amount of money, so per project. Or you can say, I can do that for a monthly retainer, or you can basically calculate how much would let's say success fee work. So how big of a success fee would work, and calculate your risk into that and charge it like that. But in the end, you browsing LinkedIn and paying your bills and working through administration, that's also your job. You should be paid for that, and those have to be covered by your billable hours. So just tacking on a little bit on the situation where somebody else did all of the other work and you were just practicing your craft, definitely doesn't work. And this is a trap that many people fall into. Okay, this was interesting. Thank you all. I will see you again in 2 weeks. Bye.
Everything changes.